Hi, welcome back to Mary Trump Live. I'm Brian Karam sitting in for Mary today. Mary's doing great. Thanks for having me, everybody. As always, it's a pleasure to be here. We're going to start off with a bang, literally. Apparently, the U.S. government can extricate a head of state from his well-fortified compound in Caracas, Venezuela, and keep the suspect alive. But the same federal government cannot conduct an ICE operation on American soil in Minneapolis without killing an unarmed 37-year-old woman and a Honda Pilot. Meanwhile, the presidential PEP secretary, Caroline Leavitt, staged her first press conference of the new year. And while the world is worried about escalating tensions between the United States and Russia, Leavitt began her briefing today telling us the world is now safe from children getting transgender surgery. All this and much more. Let's dive in. Hi, and welcome back. Today's top story is a disturbing one. This morning in Minneapolis, an immigration and customs enforcement officer shot and killed a 37-year-old woman. Federal officials described the shooting victim as a domestic terrorist. Witnesses say that's a lie. Multiple people recorded videos of the event and posted them to social media. One user posted this clip of the confrontation. Please take a look.
Get the out of our neighborhood! Out car. What the f***? Dude, what the f***? Dude, you did a murder for what?
That shooting occurred less than a mile from where George Floyd was killed. As we can see, the video shows agents surrounding the SUV and ordering the driver to get out. The car reverses, not towards the agents, away from them. And then it begins to drive away from the officers, avoiding them. Then one agent fires 3 shots into the vehicle, and it moves away from him and his colleagues. At that point in time, she had already shifted into drive, and the car continued on its own. The SUV then crashes into a parked car and a light pole. The video captured from a different angle gives us an even clearer view of what occurred as the officer fired into the car and the driver tries to flee. We're not going to show that video due to the disturbing nature of the violence that it shows. But later in the day, the shooting victim was identified as 37-year-old Twin City resident Renee Nicole Good. The identity was confirmed by the victim's mother, Donna Ganger. Very quickly, members of the Trump regime started addressing the killing. Hell, he even posted on Truth Social. They all made false statements. Here's Department of Homeland Security Kristi Noem painting the unarmed victim as a domestic terrorist.
Questions there. You asked about a shooting that we just had in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was an act of domestic terrorism. What happened was our ICE officers were out in an enforcement action. They got stuck in the snow because of the adverse weather that is in Minneapolis. They were attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle. An officer of ours acted quickly and defensively shot to protect himself and the people around him. And my understanding is that she was hit and is deceased. We're continuing to gather more information, but this goes to show the assaults that our ICE officers and our law enforcement are under every single day. These vehicle rammings are domestic acts of terrorism. We're working with the Department of Justice to prosecute them as such. We will continue to protect our ICE officers and in cooperation with other law enforcement agencies as well.
Who's going to protect us from the ICE officers? That's domestic terrorism, all right, but it wasn't the woman who was killed that was the domestic terrorist. It's the guy who's wearing the ICE uniform and a mask, so we don't know who he is. I'll also read you briefly. This is from Donald Trump. I've just viewed the clip. It is a horrible thing to watch. The woman screaming was obviously a professional agitator. And the woman driving the car was disorderly, obstructing and resisting, who then violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer. That's a lie, too. Everything Noam said was a lie. He seems to have shot her in self-defense. If you look at the videotape, he moved into position in front of the car. He could have stepped by its side. He stepped right in front of the car and fired directly at her. There was nothing defensive about it. This was an execution, and it's anathema to the way we operate. And I remind everyone, I wonder what would have happened if that had been Nicolas Maduro behind the wheel of that Honda Pilot. We found a way to make sure he came back and stood trial safely. Why couldn't you do that for a 37-year-old woman who is a resident of the United States and a citizen? Anyway, Assistant DHS Secretary Tricia McLaughlin, another lovely person, made a similar statement in a post on X. She said in part, quote, "One of these violent rioters weaponized her vehicle attempting to run over our law enforcement officers in an attempt to kill them, an act of domestic terrorism. An ICE officer fearing for his life, the lives of his fellow law enforcement, and the safety of the public." What public? There wasn't anybody that fired defensive shots. He used his training and saved his own life and then that of his fellow officers. Horseshit. This is all BS. The fact of the matter is, Donald Trump wanted to go into Minneapolis, and we'll hear from the mayor shortly, and make a statement. He wanted to frighten them. He wanted to terrorize them. The person behind this terrorization of the people who live in Minneapolis is Donald Trump. In the afternoon, again, Donald weighed in personally, parroting the lines of his subordinates. The other quote that's worth noting here is that the reason these incidents are happening is because the radical left is threatening, assaulting, and targeting our law enforcement officers and ICE agents on a daily basis. They are just trying to do the job of making America safe. I don't know how you make America safe by killing Americans. If, in fact, she did anything wrong, blocking traffic so ICE couldn't proceed, there are ways to guarantee that you don't shoot the person behind the wheel of the car. Hell, they took O.J. Simpson on a slow-speed chase. What would happen today? Anyway, here we go. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey gave a press conference. In it, he rebuked ICE and called out the Trump's regime's distortion of the facts. Take a look.
To ICE, get the fuck out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite. There's a lot of information that is swirling around right now, and we collectively are going to do everything possible to get to the bottom of this, to get justice, and to make sure that there is an investigation that is conducted in full. But what we do know is that a 37-year-old woman is dead and that she was shot by ICE. We've dreaded this moment since the early stages of this ICE presence in Minneapolis. Not only is this a concern that we've had internally, we've been talking about it. They are not here to cause safety in this city. What they are doing is not to provide safety in America. What they are doing is causing chaos and distrust. They're ripping families apart. They're sowing chaos on our streets. And in this case, quite literally killing people. So they are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is bullshit. This was an agent recklessly using power that resulted in somebody dying, getting killed.
I don't know who that guy is, but I love him. First of all, I wish more politicians were that honest. Bullshit. Get the fuck out of Minneapolis. Love him to death. Love me some Mayor Frey. But the fact of the matter is, this is a horrible story. This should never have happened. But this is the America we live in. What have we seen in just the first week of 2026, and how low can we go? As someone smarter than me and knows Donald better than me says, there's no worst with Donald. It just gets worse every day. Now let's talk about a couple of foreign policy updates. Early this morning, the U.S. seized 2 oil tankers with ties to Venezuela. One of the vessels, a Russian flag tanker called the Marinera, I like a good marinara sauce, had been evading the Coast Guard for weeks. The Russian foreign minister issued a statement demanding the return of Russian crewmen. Today, in the first White House press briefing this year, Presidential PEP Secretary Caroline Leavitt said all crew members will be detained and face charges. So much for foreign sovereignty, so much for U.S.-Russia relations. The world just got much more tense. Here is CNN national security correspondent Natasha Bertrand with more details.
According to a post on X by DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, a Coast Guard cutter actually continued to pursue that oil tanker through the North Atlantic, even through storms, to continue to monitor it until U.S. forces were actually able to seize it, as they did this morning. Now, importantly, there are some complications here because the Russians have claimed ownership over this vessel. The crew of that tanker actually, at one point, as it was fleeing U.S. forces, it painted a Russian flag on its hull. And consequently, the Russians then registered it as a Russian vessel, even though it had originally been flying under the flag of Guyana. Now, the U.S. considers the tanker to actually be stateless. It does not recognize that Russian claim over it. And so the U.S. continued with its objective of boarding and seizing the vessel, which it did successfully this morning. According to U.S. European Command, it was seized in the North Atlantic pursuant to a warrant issued by a U.S. federal court after being tracked by that Coast Guard cutter. Now, we should also note that this is not the only operation that the U.S. Coast Guard conducted today with the help of the U.S. military. Another tanker was actually seized in the Caribbean by the U.S. Coast Guard and Department of Defense as well. According to a post by U.S. Southern Command, that vessel as well was considered to be stateless and was, quote, conducting illicit activities in the area. Now, we should all note that this is part of the U.S.'s broader effort to seize and detain these ghost fleet ships that are accused of transporting illicit oil around the world, whether it be to Iran, China, Venezuela. The U.S. has said that it's going to keep up the pressure of seizing these oil tankers, particularly because it is trying to enforce a blockade on these vessels from entering and exiting Venezuela currently.
Now, you will notice that the U.S. military managed to pull over an oil tanker and board it, and we have no reports of anybody killed in that activity. However, if you're on a street in Minneapolis in a Honda Pilot, your life isn't worth squat. The other tanker, the Sophia, was seized in the Caribbean and had been accused of conducting illicit activities. Again, this is all part of Trump's efforts to combat the ghost fleet of tankers that they claim transport oil illegally. Fact of the matter is they transport oil to some of the people that can't buy oil anywhere else, including China, Iran, and other countries that Donald Trump isn't too fond of at the moment, including Russia. I guess he's had an apparent fallout with his BFF, Vlad the Impaler Putin. Today, a classified briefing was held for senators on the Venezuela mission. Trump regime officials framed the raid as a law enforcement action, not an act of war, a law enforcement action. They argued that Maduro was an illegitimate leader and an indicted criminal. And may I just say, I worked for 5 years for America's Most Wanted. I traveled with U.S. Marshals, FBI, DEA, state and federal, and local police on many raids. Never did we employ the CIA, 150 airplanes, and Tomahawk missiles. This had to be the most expensive warrant ever served in the history of the United States. Okay, maybe, well, probably in today's dollars, even more expensive than when we went to Panama. As The Guardian reported, during the briefing today, Secretary of State Marco Rubio indicated the U.S. plans to seize 30 to 50 million barrels of Venezuelan oil. They then plan to sell it at market rates and use it as leverage during a transitional period. Democrats were disturbed by the contents of this meeting. Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy told reporters, quote, "This is an insane plan." They're talking about stealing Venezuelan oil at gunpoint for a period of time undefined as leverage to micromanage the country. If it weren't a country doing this, we would call them pirates. But that's another story, because this whole conflict is all, look, this is all about oil, folks. Donald Trump told you in the briefing or in the news availability after we took Maduro that we're in the oil business. He thinks he's J.R. Ewing from Dallas. I mean, go back and look at the show if you don't understand. Anyway, CNN put together a montage of Donald's history of suggesting he would always take the oil. It should be done to the tune of the Ewings of Dallas. But anyway, watch here.
When we got out, we should have taken the oil. They're talking about a sovereign country, Iraq. Crooked as hell. I didn't want to go into Iraq. We got there. I said, keep the oil. They didn't keep the oil. These people don't know what they're doing. You know, in the old days, you're in a war. To the victor belong the spoils, right? I said, keep the oil. Keep the oil. Keep the oil. Don't let somebody else get it. If they had listened to me then, we would have had the economic benefits of the oil. I've always said, shouldn't be there, but if we're going to get out, take the oil.
So who's next? Well, there's been all kinds of speculation, and we need to talk about that briefly. Mexico, Colombia. But where is Donald Trump looking at now? Greenland. And in the first press availability in the briefing room today, the press secretary did take some questions about why are we even going into Greenland? Why are we considering attacking Greenland? Our treaty gives us everything that we want. Denmark has said we can come in there and do what we want, anything we want, basically. And she says it's over control. It's going to destroy NATO and our allies in Europe if we go into Greenland. She did say diplomacy was always the first option and violence was the last. So I will merely quote Isaac Asimov and say violence is the last refuge of the incompetent. That would be Donald Trump. The Trump regime is setting its sights on invading other rich countries. They have big plans to enrich themselves and oil companies that donated to Donald Trump's reelection campaign. Republican Senator Rick Scott, spoke to Fox News and laid out just some of the countries the regime hopes to pressure. Wonder who they are. Take a look.
So proud of what the president did, and Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth and everybody, our military, Maria Corina Machado, and what they did in Venezuela is going to change Latin America. This is the start of changing Venezuela. Then we're going to fix Cuba. Nicaragua will get fixed. Next year we'll get a new president in Colombia. We're going to start, the democracy is coming back to this hemisphere.
You know, this has nothing to do with democracy. There was a book written in 1926 by a Marine Corps Brigadier General called, whose name is Smedley Butler, and it's called War is a Racket. This is the continuing hegemony that the U.S. has involved itself in for the last 150, 200 years in the Western Hemisphere. The Monroe Doctrine has been used basically as a racket. And Smedley Butler said, and this is nearly 100 years ago, war is a racket, and he should know because he led the efforts in Central and South America. It was all about money then, and it's all about money now. So let's pause for a second. There was a lot of information to take in today, all of it not that good. And we've got to reach today's emotional support moment. Let's wrap things up by clearing our mind for the relaxing evening ahead. Here's a majestic scenic shot of a gorgeous river flowing through Montana. Be well and have a great night. Sorry, I was getting my fly fishing outfit there. I thought I saw a nice trout. Anyway, let's take your questions. Dennis has got them queued up for me. If you'll pop them up there, Dennis, I'll be happy to take as many questions as you like. So have at it. What do we got? ICE officers are those who fail the local police department intelligence test. Actually, my sources indicate that while you may be correct, it's more likely that many of these people that are in ICE were some of the very same people who were pardoned for January 6th, 5 years ago. Think about that one. What else we got? Oh my God, America, what is happening? Trump is a murderer. Well, he's at least a bad incarnation of Don Corleone, and both of his sons are Fredo. But Donald Trump believes that, and look, since the Venezuelan event, since Maduro was seized, there's no one, and this shows you that no one in the Western Hemisphere, in any country of the 40 countries in the Western Hemisphere, all of them which are allied with us in some form or fashion, none of them are safe from Donald Trump doing exactly this. What he's telling you, he's using Maduro as an example. Take the deal that we offer you, or I'll come and get your butt, throw you in. How would you like to end up? I've been in that jail in Brooklyn. Not a good one. I was a teenager, and it was an event we won't talk about. But no, it was simply a matter of drunk and disorderly. And I wasn't drunk, but I was disorderly. That's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But nonetheless, what Donald Trump is telling you is that you either do what he wants, or he will make sure that you pay the price. That's some art of making the deal. That's type of deal, right? What you got there? Gifted one Mary Trump media membership to hi, Mary Cheryl. It's always a pleasure to see you. And the $2. Oh, so glad to see you here, Brian. Thank you, Midas Cheryl. I enjoy being here. Thank you very much. Merlin HLR 3553. Those fascist ICE thugs murdered an innocent woman, and now Donald's cult is trying to spin things as Roy Cohn taught Donald. Yes, Roy Cohn told Donald always to deflect, never admit defeat, never admit wrongdoing. And they have, of course, taken that in this administration because they're all in it up to their necks. Donald Trump will never spend a day in prison. Mark my words. He will never spend a day in prison. But there are many people around him who can't say that, including Stephen Miller, Kristi Noem, Pamela Bondage, and a bunch of others. They will face the long arm of the law at some point in time. So they are in it, and they're in it to win it, Bennett. So that's that. Question. Hexeth accused a reporter today of asking a disingenuous question when they questioned the cost of Venezuela. He often denigrates and belittles the press. Has it ever been this bad? No. Look, I'm used to it after 40 years of covering the White House, the Pentagon, and Congress, and politicians in general, from local to state to federal politicians. They will often attack the questioner, right? It's called shooting the messenger. Now, in some countries, that's a literal thing. In the United States, it's becoming more literal. Reporters Without Borders reports that we have become more violent, and it's less safe to be a journalist in this country. In fact, out of the 180 countries that are in this world that they survey, the United States used to be one of the top 10 free countries in the world. Today, we're a problematic nation listed at 57th. It has never been this bad. And there's no such thing as a disingenuous question. It's not the questions, it's the answers. And I've told this, and I may have told it here, but it bears repeating again. There was a very infamous case of a young reporter traveling with the First Lady back when we had an East Wing, and this was during the Ford administration, and Betty Ford was meeting with a group of reporters, and a young reporter fresh off the choo-choo asked the question, have your kids ever smoked pot? And everybody said that was the stupidest question in the world, right up into the moment where the First Lady of the United States answered yes. And then that was the most brilliant question ever answered. The fact is, there's no such thing as a bad question, only bad answers. And when you attack those of us who are asking the questions, 9 times out of 10, it's because you don't have an answer, or you don't want to provide the answer because you know damn well that it's not going to go well for you. So there's the long-winded answer to that question. Thanks, the Kremlin Cowboy. Appreciate it. Susan Thompson, 51, 42, $20. Brian, I know you know the Constitution backwards and forwards. Thoughts on Article 2, Section 4 impeachment? If not, now when? My thoughts are you're not going to see an impeachment because we've already impeached this guy twice. There are 3 ways that Donald Trump leaves office before the end of 2028. He could start babbling like a cicada and not be able to even come out in public and make sense, and somebody invokes the 25th Amendment. That's a possibility. But you see how feckless his cabinet is, and you see how they've attached their political lips to his political posterior. So that's likely not to happen unless he's just, he's leaned over in his, morning soup and just sits there and babbles incoherently. I don't think that's going to happen. The second thing that could happen is he could expire. And God, I don't, knock on wood, I don't want that to happen. I don't want to see a man die, but that could happen. He's 79 years old. He has heart disease. We see his ankles. We see his hands. We see him. And if you haven't, just look at the day he was inaugurated a year ago compared to how he is today. He has faltered and is failing in physical and mental health. So that's likely to happen. And there are people who've actually put a poll up. He's spent a third of his time on golf courses, and so there's a bet that he could go out on the back nine as he shanks one into the rough, and as the ball hits the ground, so does he. That's likely to happen. Impeachment, I don't think you'll see it till after November, if it happens at all, and that's because the Democrats do not control the do not control the House, and they do not control the Senate. So he's not going to be impeached because they can't get a conviction. And I don't think they're going to try it unless they think there's a conviction. Now, if they do try it, I will tell you this. If, in fact, there is an impeachment that's tried, I'm turning my phone off, guys, that's because they have the votes to convict him. They won't try it without that. So if you see it happen, bet he'll be convicted. Thanks, Susan. Elizabeth Rowe, 5960. Thank you for the $10. I love your protest, Rog. Hi, Brian. Glad to hear your analysis of this. Once a month when the VA coughs up, I share $10 to thank Mary for covering your veterans and mental health issues. Thank you, too. Thank you. I have relatives, including my sister and my brother, who are veterans. The only thing I'm a veteran of is being a reporter in war zones. So I feel you on the VA issues, and I hope it gets better, not worse. Thanks, Elizabeth. Dave from 7519. I love the caricature. Why does that nasty Kristi Noem always have some kind of costume on? What was that ridiculous head? I can't watch. This is me. It's either laugh or cry. We'll be here all week. I've begun laughing, particularly after I saw the president's Christmas message, which was so rapid fire, I thought he was shot out of a cannon on Adderall. And then watching this with Maduro and the oil, I'm telling you, he thinks he's J.R. Ewing. Kristi Noem, I can't look at her seriously since I saw South Park. I'm waiting for her face to melt off. She's incoherent, babbling, and always dressed like she's going to a carnival sideshow. I can't take any of these people seriously, yet I have to, and we all must, because they're doing serious damage to this country. The middle of nowhere, $13, $20. Hey, in the middle of nowhere, I want to thank you for that. I have a 6-year-old grandson, and whenever I take him for a ride and put him in the car, he always turns to me and looks and says, Paul, are we in the middle of nowhere? We may just be in a different neighborhood, but I just love it. There's such a bunch of fucked up liars. I question who the ICE agents are. I predict we will find out that many have been abducted and trafficked by masked men posing as ICE agents, just like the DJT and Epstein. No humanity, no accountability is the problem. These are people who, I've talked to some of them, and they all believe that, for example, January 6th wasn't a riot, that it was just a peaceful protest. And look, I was there, and they weren't. And they don't listen to what I have to say because they're convinced that it was a peaceful protest. So facts and them rarely meet. And these are ICE agents I'm talking about. I'm not even talking about regular MAGA members. And these ICE agents that I've spoken with, when they'll talk to you, and usually they won't, which is odd. When they don't, I get I don't understand them. I don't understand the rationale, and I don't understand the need to pull a gun and shoot someone. One of the and I don't want people to hate cops either. I mean, and I know George Floyd happened. It was a local cop. I want to tell you, this is not, for those who doubt it, this is not normal in the United States. When I was a young reporter in San Antonio, I was working on the east side and I was covering crime. I met an officer, and I hope he's still alive. I haven't heard from him in years. His name is Harold Schatz. And Harold had been a beat cop for some 20 years when I met him. And I asked him, he was a ginger, just a red-haired white guy working the east side of San Antonio, which was heavily black. And he got along with everyone in that neighborhood. He walked the beat. He knew the people on his beat. They knew him. They trusted him. One day I was talking to him outside of the 401 Ice House in East San Antonio with my photographer by my side. A guy came out of the ice house doing this. And Harold said, I got to go in there. And I said, okay, turn the camera on, Roy. We walked in with Harold, and there was a guy holding a guy hostage or had a gun pointed at his head behind the counter. Now, today, that could have ended in a shooting or a standoff or SWAT. Harold looked at the guy and says, Charlie, what the hell are you doing? And the guy with the gun turned around and looked at him and said, Mr. Harold, this guy won't give me my quarter on my Coke, my Coke bottle, turn it in. I need that. And he said, you want me to shoot you over that? He said, put the gun down. So he put the gun down. He said, give him his quarter. And then he walked over with handcuffs, arrested the guy. And he goes, what are you arresting me for? And he goes, well, we're going to check out that firearm first to see if it's legal. And secondly, you can't pull guns on people. That's against the law. Don't you know that? And I looked at him and I said, that was just really well done. He said, in 20 years of being a police officer in one of the most violent areas of San Antonio, he had never drawn his gun. Not once. And to me, that's the hero, not the guys who draw a gun and shoot a 37-year-old woman who's attempting to flee the scene because she's fearful. There's no place for that in the United States. Thanks in the middle of nowhere. Michael Easterwood, 6'5", 5'8". They are trained never to be in front of a vehicle, too. Michael, you might have some training in you, don't you? You're absolutely right. They're trained to step to the side. If the vehicle pulls out, don't risk your own life is the first thing they teach you. Your safety first. He stepped in front of the vehicle on purpose and leveled the gun, though there had been no physical threat. In fact, she was trying to move away from them. You're absolutely right. I know that from talking to many police officers. Chrissy, I'm not going to try and pronounce. I'll try Blue Lamb, 2585. If Russia is watching this, I ask that you please release the photos you have of Donald Trump. I have a source, and I've said this before. I can't confirm it, but the photos of which you speak, and there's supposedly photos of young people of the night micturating on a bed by which Obama, I think, had slept in, and Donald Trump is watching him do it. The rumor was that it wasn't the reason why it's so bad for Donald is they weren't women. Can't confirm it, but there you go. Run with the rumor. His Divine Skidoo, $5. Thank you, His Divine Skidoo, for the $5. PM Georgie Miller reminds me of Bride of Chucky. There's an image I'll never get out of my mind now. Thanks. I don't even know where to go with that one. But okay. What else we got? 9/11 JHMLLB. Hey, JD Vance is hiding from this fiasco, prepping for his own future. JD Vance he reminds me of a short, reliever in a baseball game who's warming up in the bullpen. Or if you don't like that, it reminds me of a second string quarterback that's been called off the bench because the starter is floundering. The fact of the matter is that, yes, to your point, he is not only he's disassociated. I don't know if he's hiding, but he is disassociated from this fiasco because he has been prepping for at least the last 3 months, increasing his appearances in public and increasing his involvement in the administration. Prepping for what? Well, the conjecture abounds. Thanks, MLB. Susan Thompson again gifted 5 Mary Trump Media memberships. Thank you, Susan. That's very generous of you. Is that Shirley Jones? That's and with Oprah. Cindy X9X, a mob boss strong-armed a sovereign country for its oil. Also serving Russia, a fellow authoritarian regime. Do something, Democrats. Okay, I can address. I often go to the mob boss analogy, and I mean, it reminds me of The Sopranos. But I don't know this serves Russia. In fact, I think this is Donald Trump has said he's upset with Russia, and I'll take him at his word. Donald Trump is feeling his oats right now. Here's a fact that you have to consider. Donald Trump just showed Vladimir Putin, and I hate saying this, but how Vladimir Putin has failed in Ukraine, because I guarantee you, if Vladimir Putin could have done to Zelensky what Donald Trump did to Maduro, right now Zelensky would be sitting in a cell outside of the Kremlin or be 6 feet under. Donald Trump did that as a great FU to Russia, and taking that Russian tanker did the same thing. The problem is we're dealing with two soy boys who want to wave their you-know-whats at each other, and this is putting the world in danger. The world is inherently more unsafe with Putin and Trump at the apex of the superpowers. Just horrifying. And then do something, Democrats. Gotta, your mouth to God's ears. Or even do something, the Republicans, the real Republicans, the ones that you could at least talk to, the ones that I respected because they had morals and ethics, they fled the party. Why didn't they stay and fight? Why? Why did they flee? So the Republicans are responsible for this. The Democrats are responsible for this. They continue to engage with the far right with rhetoric that builds the viewership and the support for Donald Trump rather than engaging with voters. Quit telling us what we need to do and ask us what we want. That's why Donald Trump was successful. He's never done it. We should hold him accountable for it. But when he came out and said, we need a wall, we need to go after immigrants, Donald Trump didn't care. Donald Trump doesn't care about any of this. He cares about the ability to make something for himself from any transaction that he has. The Democrats need to get smarter in their game. I've said it often. We have two parties in this country. One has no heart. One has no head. And it's never gotten any better. The Democrats need to have more head, and the Republicans need to grow a heart. Refilling the Joe Colorado swear jar for all of us. $10 to yes, there's been a lot of cursing today. It's my fault. I plead guilty, Susan. Thank you very much. Nanner 8, $5. The Joe Colorado swear jar needs a lot more in it. There you go. I promise to keep it down. I'll add to the swear jars today too. $5 from Janet Brenner. Woohoo! Hey, I was just quoting some of these people earlier. They're the ones who said it, including the mayor from Minneapolis. Karnak the Magnificent. I love Karnak, one of my favorite. You have to be of a certain age to enjoy Johnny Carson. $2. Thank you very much. General Butler's book is free online. And I recommend everybody reads. It's a small book. I've got a copy of it here somewhere. I use it often when I write because of the things that he said. He goes, American mothers and American parents don't want to see their kids dying for Standard Oil. That was 100 years ago, folks. I don't see that. He said the only time we should go to war is when we are threatened directly. And of course, 6 years after he wrote that book, we were in World War II. But you're absolutely right. Go, please, everybody get Smedley Butler's book and read it. It's a short read. It's an essay. And for people who don't know who he was, one of the things that he was known for was breaking up a fascist attempt to overthrow the FDR administration. Franklin Delano Roosevelt they came to him and wanted him to be involved. Instead, he busted him up and turned him in. Real American hero who knew war. Thanks, Karnak. Wait a minute. My favorite Karnak joke. Sis boom ba. What happens to a sheep? What does a sheep say when it explodes? Sis boom ba. Anyway, you think Barron will have bone spurs when the draft is activated? The draft's not going to be activated. They found a way. Kathy, you there? I'll directly speak to you. You're not going to see a draft. You know why? Because they've successfully engineered the economy for poor people to do nothing more than become cannon fodder for the rich. You don't need it when you've got all the people that we have who are volunteering. If you can't get a job anywhere else, Brigade 45, $5. More dollars for Joe's swear jar. Oh, I'm telling you, that's a tough room. Oh, I curse often. I'll quote him. Ryan, we swear here. It's a thing. Swear away. Oh, well, what the fuck? Thanks, Susan. What the hell? $5. Joe, Colorado, $9.99. Y'all are making me look bad. Here's for the fucking swear jar. Well, I'll kick in a little myself to the kitty, yo. Thanks, Joe. Kathleen Taylor, $5. We only made it 249 years. Do not celebrate the 4th. I'll celebrate the 4th. I still believe in in what this country can be. I don't know if you see it right there. That thing that's in red behind me was an award that was given for standing up for free speech and going to jail. I firmly, in protecting a source, I firmly believe in the ideals of this country. I will celebrate the 4th. I will celebrate even more when those people who have screwed over the Constitution go to prison for their seditious activities. And I pray that I get to see that in my lifetime. And I have to have hope because I have 2 grandchildren, my 6-year-old who's perpetually always has a smile on his face, a 1-year-old granddaughter who smiles as much as he does, and one on the way. And I may not live to see them grow old. I hope I do. But I want a world that's better for them. And democracy, folks, I am a firm believer in regulated capitalism, and I'm a firm believer in democracy. We only, Brigitte, how much more of this horror do we put up with? Enough is enough. Well, I don't think we have to put up with it. I think, again, we have to be active. Some of you people here should run for office. We need local officials. Some of you here should volunteer to work precincts to make sure that those precincts are properly maintained when we vote and that people get in to vote. We need to be more involved. Get involved with the phone banks. Help drive elderly people to the polls. Get people signed up. Make sure that they're, we consider a great turnout in our elections 60%. That's screwed. That means 30% plus one, a super minority, elects most of our officials. We need to get our involvement in the electoral process up a lot. We have met the enemy, folks, and he is us. It's not going to get better till we all get involved. And I know you people here are involved. You're involved right now. Take it an extra step. Get involved. Please do more than vote. Thanks, Brigade. Yeah. Here's more for the Joe Colorado swear. Joe, they're going after your brother. What can I tell you? In the middle of nowhere, $13, thanks in the middle. I'm a classy, intelligent, well-educated woman who happens to say fuck a lot. JC swear jar contribution. Well, what the fuck? I've always enjoyed that word on an occasion when inappropriate. I've even said it in the White House and in front of a president who said it back to me. I said, what the fuck? What the fuck? And I won't tell you the president who it was, but he was a Southern president. And he looked at me and he said, well, what the fuck? So I love it to this day. What else we got? Dennis, and Well, we've got in the middle of nowhere. I want to go to there was one I saw earlier. Some of these comments are really great. But there was one I wanted to go to earlier that said, I can't find it anymore, but you were asking, ISIS supposedly trained, though minimally, since they need them so badly. New hires, this is from Sandy Bird, 9512. New hires are woefully uneducated and unhealthy, but they're getting a fast-track class, need extra attention. And I'm glad you brought that up, Sandy Bird, 9512. That is really critical. What you have, when I talked earlier about a police officer that I knew, he had academy training, he had experience, he had 20 years on the job. These people who are going into ICE get minimal training. They get what? They get a bonus for signing up, and then they shovel them out on the streets. Again, if you've seen South Park, it's, I got to make my nut. It's pretty much what it is. And so these people are not trained, and a lot of them are people that could not make it into the Secret Service, into the DEA, the FBI, state police, local police, or even as a security guard. These are gun-happy people, a lot of them. I've talked to them, and I'm not embellishing it at all. I mean, there are people that actually brought their... I talked to a recruiter who told me that he had in one day 3 or 4 people who came to him. They were already armed. They came with their own weapons and said, you don't have this? I've got it. That's not who we want policing the United States. And we certainly don't want people shooting at us indiscriminately. So I'm glad you brought... there were questions like that all day long. If there's anything else, otherwise, I just want to say thank you. I want to remind everyone to tune in to Mary and buy the merch and ding the bell and let people know that you like it. I'm also going to make a blatant plug. Just Ask the Question is the name of my podcast, and I write every week in Salon. And for you guys here, I'm going to do you. We have just completed a documentary that's about an hour long. It's on the first 100 days of the Donald Trump administration, this 100 days, and the rest of the year. We just finished it up. We've got the finishing touches to put on it. We're taking it, and Mary's in it, by the way, and we're taking it to festivals all over the country. I'll let you guys know. I'll have a special viewing for you guys sometime soon, and I'll get in touch with Mary so you can, for a limited time, watch this documentary. I hope you do. And I want to thank you all for having me. As always, from the bottom of my heart, it is one of the greatest places to be. You people are fantastic. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you next time.